Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday to you. So let's get started. So I laugh at that because it's pretty funny. Let's get started. So I'll propose to you that we're already started, and that we don't have any real idea of what it is that we're actually doing. Because if we're judging that we're either started or not started, or we're there or not there, or we've got it or we don't got it, I know that's incorrect grammar, then we are missing the point. So in the various, I can categorize them as Hindu or yogic, maybe yogic is better, yogic scriptures that I've read. The primary instruction is that suffering arises from a false identification, or an identification that is false. So when we believe that I am this, I am that, I want this, I want that, I have this, I don't have that, I need this, that this is the cause of suffering, or it's synonymous with suffering. That's what suffering is. And they point out the primary attachment is I am this person. And if you look, you'll probably notice, it's not hard to notice, that every thought that you have, or every experience that you have, you refer to that, or you use that to refer to a central you, who you imagine to be the experiencer, and that these are my thoughts, my experiences. So these are my thoughts and my experiences. Those other thoughts and other experiences are not mine. So the ones that are these that are mine, and then there are others that are not mine. So we imagine that there are others who are having experiences and thoughts that we're not having. Therefore, those are their thoughts and experiences, not mine. These are my thoughts and experiences that I'm having. And recently, I think it may have been in the Bliss Techniques program, we did an inquiry that perhaps can start to cast a new light on that. And we'll look at that again today, briefly, maybe. But The mistake that can often arise for people is to then think, I am nothing, or I am not, I don't exist. But that's also a mistake, because there's also still this unquestioned assumption that I'm the one who doesn't exist, or I'm the one who's nothing. So that leads to despair, or that is despair, which is a form of suffering. So let's take a look today and see if we can really have a fresh experience, one that's free of the baggage that's unnecessary. Okay. And the aim of this is the aim is truly to be to discover liberation. And that's a liberation that's not about what I think it will be. It's not, I can't, if I enter that with a preconceived notion of what that means, then I'm entering that with too much baggage. So all of the baggage has to be set aside in order to enter through this gateway, let's call it. And then whatever we discover through that gateway is uh, truly fresh, because we're not carrying all that baggage in. So let's choose a posture, and let it be a posture where you can be awake and not be overly straining. So that's a challenge in and of itself, right? I mean, if we want to be awake, so we don't want to just fall asleep. And we don't want to be straining so much that we're just fixated on the strain. So maybe we can start to see just in that how much we identify habitually as this extremist. And we think we're identified as the content, but it's not even the content, it's just this metaposition as the extremist. I'm just the extremist, and whatever extreme will do. So we just fling ourselves from one extreme to the other. I will endure anything, or I can't endure anything, I'll just collapse. I'm just so delicate. I have to ensure I'm like the princess and the pea. The 100 mattresses piled up on top. She can't just toss and turning all night. Can't get a good night's sleep. And turns out there was a pea underneath the bottom mattress that was keeping her awake. We're like that. We're so sensitive. Oh, any little thing, I can't. I can't get comfortable. It's preventing me from that pea. That tiny little thing is preventing me from being present, because it's so disturbing, because I'm so sensitive. So we go to these two extremes. I'm ultra sensitive, or I'll endure anything. And what we're really wanting here is something right in the middle, so that we can be open to the experience, open to the actual experience as it is. So close the eyes. And become aware of whatever sensation is calling your attention. So there's some sensation. And even if you say, well, there's no sensation, I'm completely numb. Okay, then just that numbness. Or perhaps you say, well, there's so many sensations, I can't choose one. So that inability, that overwhelm and inability to focus. See, I don't want you to have an excuse, whatever your experience. So that experience that is at the forefront, that is most calling for your attention, just be aware of that. And we're going to just play a game. So it's just a game. There's no winning or losing in this game. So you don't have to worry about getting it right or winning or losing or any of that. It's just a game, just for fun, just for shits and giggles, as they say. So you're just noticing this experience, maybe the sensation. And now just allow yourself to listen with your inner ear, so your imaginative ear. So I'm using the word imaginative or imagination in a broad sense, not just visual images, but also auditory or kinesthetic. But you're listening with your imaginative inner ear. So obviously this is what there's a word for this that is eluding me. But we're listening with their imaginative inner ear to this experience, and just allow it to speak to you. Just listen, really wants to be heard or witnessed, has something to communicate. And it's just a game, remember, so don't take it too seriously. Don't worry that you're doing it correctly or incorrectly. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just play along. So whatever you hear, even if you have judgment, I'm just making that up, that's fine. Just play with it. Just go with it. Whatever that is. And so let's just take a moment to hear that or experience that or witness that. And now just allow that as if there's a phrase, and maybe there is a distinct phrase that you've become aware of. And even if there's not, you have some sense of this communication, and just there's some core phrase or core communication. And just allow yourself to begin to repeat that silently to yourself. It's a familiar experience to you. It's a familiar communication. Just allow yourself to experience that, to repeat that over and over, and see where it takes you. See what comes from that. And remember that it's safe to do so, that you will only and can only ever be witness to your own, let's call it soul, your own self. So there's nothing outside of you that will hurt you. There's nothing inside of you that can hurt you. Even if you find yourself sometimes somewhat apprehensive. So just play along and see what comes up. What's seen. And don't put limitations on it. It could be anything. It's in your imagination. So let it be unmanaged. You're not trying to force it into any particular mold. Just see what surfaces. Let yourself be open to that. And perhaps you find that some scene unfolds, whether you are visual or kinesthetic or auditorial, sort of imaginer. You can just allow that scene to unfold. Just allow that to play out so that you can really be witness to this experience in its fullness. So it's like you have found this package tied up in paper with a string, and you just gently tugged on the string, and now it's come open, and you see what's in there, feel what's in there, hear what's in there. And stay with it. Now, as you're witness to this perception, you're just allowing it to play like you're watching a movie or you're perhaps immersed in the movie. But notice that you are aware of this. So whatever it is that occurs, you can allow yourself to continue to be witness, recognizing that you are aware. Whatever you see, whatever you feel, whatever you taste, whatever you smell, whatever you experience, you can notice that you are aware. Now, if you need more time to allow some inner scene to complete, then please take your time with that. In which case, you can just stay with that and you needn't bother to listen to anything that I say until you're ready. And for anybody else, I'll invite you to become aware of your own memory of your childhood in this lifetime. Just be aware of any memories that come to mind, whether they might be pleasant memories or unpleasant memories or any kind of memories. So they could be memories of being at home or memories of being at school, memories of playing with friends or memories of being with family, perhaps memories of being alone. Memories of special places, special moments. Perhaps you remember special objects, toys, gifts. And notice that you are aware of these memories. So where do these memories exist? It's not a question that I'm asking for you to think over, but rather just to observe in your direct experience. Where are these memories right now, presently? What's your actual experience? Now allow yourself to open to a broader context, to the, let's say, to the, what we might call the human oversoul, that which has these memories and images and experiences recorded of all of humanity through all time. So utilize your imagination and just imagine some of the things that have occurred, some of those memories that are imprinted on the human oversoul. You can perhaps remember or imagine all kinds of things: wars, celebrations, births, deaths, hunting, collecting water, surprise, starvation, drought, all kinds of things that you can imagine or remember. Notice where these memories or imaginations are. Now, I'll invite you to imagine yourself presently. Imagine your body, your emotions, your experience, your ways of relating with yourself and with others. Imagine your place in this world. Imagine your whole self presently. Just imagine that. And notice where that experience is, where that is taking place. Just observe that. Don't try to think about it or analyze it. Just notice. So all of these experiences, you can perhaps start to notice that all of them are occurring, we could say, equally. All of them are equal. All of them have equal existence, because all of them are occurring within what we could call your imagination. And at the moment they are imagined, they're equally real, equally true. Now notice if there are certain themes that run throughout all of the things that you've imagined. What are you attracted to? What are you averse to? What what are the themes? Are there threads of commonality that run throughout when you imagine or remember? We could also do this exercise if you were to project into the future. Imagine the future. Imagine your personal future. Imagine that. Imagine where you will be, what you will be doing, how you will be feeling, who you will be with, where you will be, what that will be like. You could even imagine that far, far, far into the future beyond this lifetime. Imagine humanity or life far into the future. What is that like? So you can start to see the threads that run if you imagine into the distant past and into your own personal past, and then into your personal present, and into your personal future, and then into the distant future. Are there threads that run throughout that bring them together? And what are those threads? How are those? Is there a particular thread? We bring it back to where we began. That sensation, that experience that has something to express, that you listen to. Is that thread there? Can you see how that thread, it's like a thread that's been pulled, cinched in the weave of this fabric of life, of the totality. It's been pulled tight so that it distorts the weave and everything cinches around it, and this colors and distorts our perception of life so that this is what we perceive, this is what we see. Now the question is, take a look right now. Is that belief that has been brought into focus as the thread in your life, is that true? And I'm not asking, can you find evidence in your thoughts and memories and beliefs? Because of course you can. We've just gone through that. What I'm asking is, looking as yourself, as this witness, which has access to the distant past, that impersonal distant past, as well as the personal past and the personal present and the personal future and the impersonal distant future. That awareness, as that presence, look to see, is that thread, that singular thread, is that the truth? Is that more true than anything else? Now, let's do a little exercise. It's just a game again, so don't worry if you're doing it correctly or not. I want you to imagine that weave, that tapestry that has been cinched around that thread. So I want you to just get a sense of that, get a sense in whatever way you can, visually, kinesthetically, however that works for you, just get a sense of that. And now I want you to imagine that it is being smoothed out. It's being smoothed out. It's bit by bit, gently, being all brought back into the right proportions so that that thread is no longer pulled tight. It's all smoothed out. It's suddenly you can start to see the whole tapestry, the whole of it. It's no longer distorted, and you can start to see how that one thread, when it's in balance with the others, plays its role. It's valuable in the right context. When it's out of context, of course, it distorts the whole thing in ways that are not so nice. But when you allow it to all be smoothed out so that it's in balance and even, and the weave is now like new, renewed, you can see the whole tapestry, the whole context, the whole big picture, the whole of it. And notice whatever you notice, just see it, feel it, experience it, perceive that in whatever way you do, and allow yourself to receive that as a new possibility. And as you continue to perceive and receive that whole tapestry, I want you to begin to allow yourself to, if you haven't already, to merge with that so that you start to experience that wholeness, that renewal directly within yourself, and begin to notice that those threads of the weave, they are, each one of them is a thread of light. So as you are merging with that, it's as if you're peering into the interior of the weave itself. You can actually see within it at a subatomic level, and you discover that all of those threads are light. They're all made of light. Feel yourself as that weave of light. Within that weave of light, there are infinitely many we could conceive of as particles of light, points of light. There's so many of them. You might start to wonder why you've been so stuck on such a handful. You can notice how the attachment to those points bunches them up, creates a distortion. And so you can release and allow all of the particles of light to flow. And you can begin to perceive perhaps that flow of the particles of light within yourself. You might notice sensations of that flow of those particles of light. So we have touched upon what we might call by any number of names, depending on the words that we've been taught to use. may notice whatever words we use or don't use for this that we have touched upon, that it is beyond your habitual egoic sense of yourself, and that it has this remarkable capacity to dissolve and absorb and distribute in yogic terms, we could call it Brahman. And in yogic terms, there's what's called the Atman, which is the individualized, non-egoic self. And they say that Brahman is Atman and Atman is Brahman, which is evident in your own experience. If you look, you can see that this non-egoic self is the same whether it's individualized or not. The real challenge comes when, again, we unite this non-egoic self with an egoic self. The egoic self in yogic terms is the jiva. And this is where we get ourselves in the most trouble, because we may be able to have moments of this recognition of the boundless liberation that is our inherent nature, but when it comes time to open the eyes and engage, we seem to forget that. So how can we have this marriage of the egoic and the non-egoic. And one thing is to recognize what happens to the egoic. Where does the egoic go? Was the ego destroyed, or did the ego simply recede or soften somewhat into the background? So if we can allow that ego to soften rather than to try and annihilate it, we'll have an easier time with this marriage. So locate that sense of being someone, and start to imagine yourself presently. Start to imagine yourself here. Imagine your body. And imagine your body with some clear discrimination about what it is what actually is a good way for you to imagine your body. So imagine your body in that good way, not getting rid of anything, but just beginning to have this sense of yourself, your experience in a good way instead of in a bad way. And begin to imagine your emotions in a good way. And begin to imagine your thoughts in a good way. And begin to imagine your relationships in a good way. Allowing the ego to be soft, so that the threads of that tapestry don't snag on anything, so that the whole tapestry can remain intact and clear. And notice that you can allow whatever comes into your imagination to come and to go. In a few minutes, we'll begin to open the eyes. And when you begin to open the eyes, do so slowly so that you can gently integrate this experience with the open-eyed experience, so that you can clearly recognize that the experience with the eyes open is also occurring within you, the same as the experience with the eyes closed. So thank you for joining me today. I have another meeting at a minute ago, so we're not going to have a Q&A today. Remember that this tapestry of light is in you, and you are aware, and whatever you become aware of is good. And when I say it is good, I don't mean that it is necessarily pleasant. I don't mean that it's necessarily something that you want to repeat in your life. I don't mean that it's something that you necessarily aspire to have more of. But I mean that it is good in that you are aware of it. And that by being aware of it, you are aware of where there are threads that have been snagged and cinched. And through that awareness, you can allow them to be smoothed out just by being witness, just by acknowledging, just by accepting that this experience is occurring and that this needs to be received, not neither condoned nor condemned, just received. It's the quote that you may be familiar with, that those who refuse to, paraphrasing, but those who refuse to learn history are condemned to repeat it. So we can just learn by being witness. So you can see that everything that you are aware of is something within you, something that was not witnessed or received, that there wasn't a learning. And so now in the witnessing and receiving, there's a learning, and you just allow that. You don't need to do anything with it. It's just thank you. And then you can begin to have the freedom to imagine in a good way, rather than being burdened by all of those impressions that you didn't want to look at. So be gentle, take care of yourself. This is pretty profound exploration. So be super gentle, just be aware, take good care of yourself, and remember that it's all part of the healing process. Just be witness and give thanks. And I hope to see many of you tomorrow for the reading of the Ramayana, and I will see all of you when I do next. Blessings to you all. Bye for now, and prepare yourself. I'm going to end the recording.